So when did you move to Dubai?
When I was 16 to 18.
Okay. And is that when you met the person that would become your husband?
No, so I actually did 2 years of schooling in Dubai. Then I moved to back here to London for university. And it was like once I'd completed university and then gone back to Dubai as an adult, technically of my own accord, that's when that's when real things went down.
Okay, so then let's get into that. How did you meet this person? Was it an arranged type of marriage? Isn't that pretty common?
Yeah, that's actually very common. And it's also very common from the Pakistani background that I come from. It's essentially like once you're done with university, the natural trajectory for a woman is to get married and then to have kids and blah, 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 right? There's no like scope to go find yourself or go explore or travel. In fact, if you do want to do anything, like if you do want to travel and stuff, they say most parents would tell you that you can do whatever you want once you're in your husband's house. Basically, then you have carte blanche. Until then, because anything that you do that might be just bringing them into disrepute or something, they want it to be on your husband's conscience, not on theirs. Like you've broken away from their family now. We've given you a
Oh,
yeah. So essentially, for a lot of Pakistani women, even British Pakistani women, the only way to tasting like a little bit of freedom is literally to get married, and the expectation is so heavy. But yeah, I came back to the UAE, and because I had gone done my last 2 years of school there. One of my old high school friends introduced me to a friend, which I'd wished this I had never ever accepted to meet this person, but yeah, that's what happened. And about like a year later, because you're not really allowed to date again according to Islam and according to the culture I come from. So it's a very weird, like towing the line between what's acceptable for your parents in terms of like, does he come over? Does he pick you up and drop you off? Did they see his car outside? How much time can you spend in the evening? Like, can you actually go on a date? And all of these things. So you can't really date for a long term, and it gets very tricky trying to keep your parents happy and trying to make this relationship work. And then my parents decided they were going to move to Malaysia. And I had been moving around so much in my life at this point, and I was quite settled in Dubai. And Malaysia is quite hard to get a job if you're a non-Malay. And I was just like, I don't think I'm ready to uproot my life to Southeast Asia just yet. And so basically, the only way that I was able to stay in Saudi Arabia and quote unquote carry on like dating him or seeing him in my parents' eyes was for me to get married. So yeah, that's what kind of brought that on. I was quite young, and I was in no rush to. But yeah, then you have the added cultural pressure of, because I said we could just do a simple signing, right? Let's just at least then we have freedom to travel back and forth and things like that. And he can stay over at, the parents' house and vice versa. But then there's the added cultural thing of that looks shady. It looks like you guys are eloping or something's gone wrong. So we need to do the whole shebang in front of everyone. So that's like how I kind of got into that situation.
so how did you feel about him? Did you feel like you were in love? Did you feel like this was your person?
To be honest, like I said, I was quite young, and I didn't know at the time. But it seemed like it was like something out of a movie initially, and now in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is clear love bombing. Like it makes so
Hmm.
much sense now. And I had moments in, what while that I guess that most honeymoon movie type period was going on, that this seems like it's a lot, and it's a lot very quickly, and it seems like grand gestures, but again, young silly naive me just kind of lapped it up and went with it. And naturally, if that's how something starts. I mean, the things that I've looked into now and the things that I understand is if something like that starts like that, it's probably going to crash and burn really really quick when the mask slips on the other side. Like once you're married, and he's got that ring on the finger and things are different.
Okay, so you think that he maybe had a motive to marry you up and then just do a rug pull and treat you completely different?
I didn't think that at the time, but in hindsight, like the way that his behavior just straight up changed after the honeymoon, and it was almost like, and then I didn't even see like any motive from him per se, but it was the actions of his parents, like the amount of times like his dad would call me and take an interest in like our travel arrangements or how many times I was going to the UK. And then it kind of crossed my mind that is he talks about passports and immigration a lot. Like, are they trying to maybe do this just to get him a British passport? Because I kept, again, I wasn't happy in the marriage very early on, so I kept going myself to Malaysia or coming back to the UK just to take a break. And like, you know, when he wasn't going to work, and again, just very happy to spend his parents' money and live this really ultra bougie lifestyle that he's not really worked for during the day. And I just couldn't respect that about him. So I would keep flying away and I would keep kind of giving him ultimatums. And then he would just lie to me that he has been at work and things. But I could see that his dad was getting agitated that he's missed out on all these trips to the UK, which would obviously really help his passport thing one day. So then, I mean, but when things got really bad, like Shalisa was, it was just daily things, like things where I would have to start recording what he was saying because he would say something and then completely flip and make me feel like I had completely lost my mind or misread that whole situation.
Mm.
When this was happening for a while, I was like, this is not normal. Like, you shouldn't have to. Like, I was replaying stuff and being like, look, this is you saying this. Like, what? I'm literally not crazy. And over time, like, again, that's not my personality at all. Like, I'm quite strong-headed, and you know, I know what I've seen or I know what I've heard. Pretty good at reading a situation for the most part. So when he was trying to like really wear me down in that sense, I remember being at home. We had a little puppy, but every time I would see his car like pull up towards the house, I would start getting like really, really bad anxiety. Like my heart would start, like, you know, and get palpitations, and I would just get the puppy, get the lead, and like just want to be out in public. And I would go on like these long, like 1 2 hour walks just so he would call, see where I was, but I could like gauge his mood while I was out on this walk in public, like just in case. Um, and then I was like, this is not normal. Like when he leaves for work, like I lock the door, like, you know, and then I like have like some time to just like clear my mind and just think about things. Then when he comes, like I leave, or when he's at home, I'm always just trying to say to him, like, let's go out, let's go for dinner, let's do something so that we're not in a close, confined space together. Then, yeah, there was some really weird kind of antics of his that I didn't understand. And then once when it got really, really like weird, like I thought I could confide in his sister and I thought I could trust her. So I asked her to come for lunch one day because he had been watching like the OJ trial. There was like a series about it, and I was asleep, and I'd obviously confided in one of my best friends at that point that things are really weird and they're not, I don't know, I can't really make sense of things. But I just said to her, like, if you ever get a random message from me, just please call the police. And like one night he was watching that series and I was asleep, and he like came and like leant over me and said, this is such a great show, like you need to watch it. And I remember thinking, like, I've never been so creeped out in my life. And I think that was like the final straw. I kind of planned in my head that I need to make an exit plan and I just need to like do it without him knowing. Like, this is, if he's either going to kill me or I'm just going to completely lose all sense of myself. But
Jeez.
I am not going to be okay if I stay in this house.
Yeah. So then what did you do? I mean, clearly you're not feeling safe at home. How old are you now at this point?
I was, I think, 23 at this point.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. So I had started, so I literally, like, one of the times that he said something and like stormed off and went to work, I actually typed in to Google what he said because I was like, in my head, I had like a really, really, you know, like nice upbringing, like a loving, nurturing family. So I had no idea like that people talk to other people like this. And I thought, dude, you don't even speak to your enemy like this, let alone like your life partner, you know, somebody you're supposed to like love and care about and respect. So I actually typed in what he said to me. And I think I wrote something so stupid as like put his words in verbatim and wrote, is this normal? Question mark.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember what it was?
It was, I think it was just, it was something either to do with my family or me, just like something so degrading that I was like, how did your brain even come up with that? But no, I've had lots of, not lots, but I had EMDR therapy after that. So thankfully, a
Mm,
lot of this has been wiped out of my brain, which is why I'm able to like smile and get through this and tell you because, yeah, a lot of it is kind of blurry in that sense. But what I remember is when I typed in that search, the first thing that came up was just pages and pages of, are you being emotionally abused? Is it like, are you being psychologically abused? And now to me, all I thought abuse ever was like physically hitting someone, right?
right.
Like punching the crap out of them or something like that. I had no idea you could be financially abused. I had no idea you could be emotionally or psychologically abused. I did not know these things existed, but I opened the first thing on Google, and it was just like a checklist of, does he make you feel like this, like this, like this, like this? Do you now feel like this, like this, like this? Do you feel like your personality has changed from this to this? And I was so shook when I was reading through that, and I was like, oh my God, yes, 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 like tick, 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 tick. And I remember, like, again, this was one of those moments like when I realized Islam was wrong. It was like something just washed over me. In that moment, I was like, holy crap, I now understand what is being done to me and why I feel like crap all the time, like why I'm so demotivated. I started watching, like Googling TED Talks on how not to be depressed or how to get your mojo back and like things like that, because yeah, I just couldn't understand it. But for the first time in my life, I was starting to think, is it really worth it? Like, is there any point to this?